Alright everybody, welcome back. We had a bit of a technical difficulty during round 2, so our apologies for having no commentary on that. But we're jumping into round 3. In this match, we're going to have Fiona Hawkins, who is a Kansas City native, on your bottom screen, playing against Neil Chaney, who is in Independence, driving from Omaha, Nebraska. Both of these players are 2-0 right now, so it's going to be a good set. And I'm personally really excited. So we can go ahead and start talking about Fiona's team. As you can see there on the bottom, she's using a team of Tapu, Koko, Alolan Muck, Garchomp, Golduck. What else was on there? Pelipper, and there's one more as her 6th. So Golduck and Snorlax, and against Neil, who's using Buzzwole, Whimsicott, Tapu, Koko, Pelipper, Krookodile, and Golduck. So both of these teams have a rain mode. Both teams are running a Tapu Koko as well. In rain, we often see Tapu Koko carrying Thunder because rain gives it 100% accuracy. It'll be interesting to see if either of these players have used that. So let's talk about the differences on these two teams a little bit. Both are rocking a ground type. Neil choosing to use the Krookodile, which has a secondary dark typing, making it weak to fairy type attacks, but also making it immune to any prankster, which Fiona doesn't have. It also, the other difference it has over Garchomp is it has the ability Intimidate, which can certainly be useful to slow down some of the physical attackers on Fiona's side of the field. Now, on the flip side, Fiona using Garchomp as her ground type, which has a little bit more speed and a little bit more attacking power than Krookodile. In exchange, it loses Intimidate, and it also gains a 4 times weakness to Ice type attacks. And alright, so we'll see what these trainers have decided to lead with. Fiona going ahead, sticking with the rain lead. She decides to lead with Pelipper and Golduck as Neil goes a different route using Tapu Koko and Whimsicott. So now both sides of the field can set Tailwind here, which I imagine Neil would want to get a Tailwind up in order to match the speed boost that Golduck has. However, if Fiona matches Tailwinds with him, Golduck will still have the speed advantage over that Tapu Koko and be able to fire off very powerful water-type attacks that are going to be boosted by the rain. However, Fiona decides she doesn't want to leave her Golduck on the field in front of that Tapu Koko and instead decides to switch out in favor of Muck. Neil decides he wants to play it safe and protect and set Tailwind. And Pelipper goes for the Hurricane into the Whimsicott slot, and so because the Whimsicott is not carrying the Focus Sash item, it does go down in one hit. So while we see that Fiona takes an early Pokemon lead, Neil did get to take the chance to set Tailwind, and he also was able to use this turn, the KO on Whimsicott, as a chance to bring Krookodile onto the field to immediately threaten that Muck. So these, the Tapu Koko and the Krookodile are both very threatening to Fiona's side of the field, and they're both going to be faster than the Pokemon that she has out currently due to the Tailwind. So despite the Pokemon lead, Fiona's still in a threatened position, and Neil decides not to press his lead too much, opting to protect, potentially scouting out that protect on the Muck, not wanting to fire off a Z move into a protect, not dealing as much damage. As he goes for the Volt Switch into the Pelipper slot, Pelipper holds on with its Focus Sash item. So now we're going to see Neil's 4th Pokemon. He's going to bring it out, replacing the Tapu Koko, and it is Buzzwole coming in on this side of the field. As Pelipper goes for a Scald into the Protect of the Krookodile. So that's a really good turn for Neil. He's able to reposition himself a little bit, get Buzzwole on the field, get Pelipper down to its sash, and he's still threatening Muck with the Krookodile. So Fiona decides to leave both of her Pokemon in the on the field in front of Neil's 2 Pokemon as that Krookodile fires off the Tectonic Rage, likely going into the Muck slot. Probably going to be enough to pick up the KO, being a super effective hit with 180 base power. Is going to deal a lot of damage to that Muck, and it does indeed pick up the KO. And then Buzzwole goes for the Ice Punch into the Pelipper, which is going to finish it off, seeing as the Pelipper had only 1 HP remaining. And that's going to give the Buzzwole a Beast Boost, and it is an attack boost. So Neil turns this around. Now he's leading 3 Pokemon to 2. Fiona's going to take her time selecting what's going to come in, as Golduck still has the rain speed advantage, and Tapu Koko is going to be slower than both of Neil's Pokemon right now. However, he is running out of Tailwind turns, so if Fiona can manage to capitalize on that, stall out the Tailwind, and then start going for KOs, the Tapu Koko will be in a good position to Dazzling Gleam for super effective damage on both of these opposing Pokemon. Now, it does depend on how much speed investment each of these trainers have put into their Golduck and Krookodile, respectively, because both currently have doubled speed, so it is possible that Golduck is faster. However, the Krookodile does move ahead of the Golduck, firing off an Earthquake. That is enough to pick up the KO on Tapu Koko. So now it's Golduck versus the world. As Golduck goes with the Waterium Z, firing off the Hydro Vortex. This is going to be a very powerful move. It's going to be boosted by the rain to deal quite a lot of damage to whichever one of these targets it chooses to go for. And yeah, the Golduck did fire off this attack into the Buzzwole. I definitely think that was the right decision, given that it was at +1 and probably more threatening. So now Tailwind does run out. The unfortunate thing is that means we're, I think, on the last turn of rain. So all Neil has to do to lock this game up is double protect if he has the option, and then he'll be able to fire off an electric attack into that Golduck. Without the Golduck having the speed advantage. If I miscounted the rain turns and Golduck has some sort of spread move, it's definitely got an out here though, as it is currently the fastest Pokemon on the field. As Neil does go for the protect, doesn't want Tapu Koko to have to take an attack from Golduck, and Krookodile also protects. Just goes ahead, double protects, stalls out the end of that rain. That way he can maintain the speed advantage and pick up the KO. So what we saw here is that Neil did really well positioning himself. He was perfectly happy to trade his Whimsicott's sacrificing Whimsicott just to set up a Tailwind in order to kind of counteract the speed advantage that Fiona had with her Golduck in the rain. And that definitely paid huge dividends for him, in the mid-game there, being able to pick up KOs and maintaining good positioning. So both players taking their time deciding what they want to bring to this match. Fiona probably trying to figure out what she could do a little bit better. And Neil possibly trying to think, is the game plan that I just used going to be good against whatever she brings, or should I change it up a little bit in anticipation of any changes she might make? Now, it will be interesting. Pelipper does have the option to set Tailwind. If Fiona could capitalize on that to kind of neutralize the Tailwind mode that Neil sets, she could definitely swing the match in her favor and force a game 3. And alternatively, you know, if she has a good plan to deal with the Buzzwole, it's really the only thing on Neil's team that threatens Snorlax. So as long as she can take care of Buzzwole effectively, Snorlax could just come in, you know, and play the long game and eventually take the win. So going down right to the last second to select moves, or to select participating Pokemon. So we'll see how these trainers adjust a little bit after the information that they've gained from Game 1. So Fiona decides, you know what, maybe don't lead with the Golduck. I'm going to go with Garchomp here in this slot. So Garchomp and Pelipper leading off against Neil, deciding, hey, you know what, Whimsicott setting Tailwind really gave me a good advantage last game. You know what, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So I'm going to stick with what worked. So it's a little bit different here. We haven't seen this Garchomp. It could be Z Ground, in which case it'll be slower than the Tapu Koko. However, it could also be Scarf, which is a very popular item on Garchomp. And if it's a Scarf variant and it's faster than the opposing Tapu Koko, then it can pick up a KO very quickly, you know, essentially for free, as the Whimsicott does decide, you know what, Tailwind was really good, I like Tailwind, let's go ahead and go for that. And we do see that it is not a Focus Sash, or it is not a Choice Scarf on the Garchomp, because it's moving after the Tapu Koko. And once again, Pelipper holding on with its Focus Sash. And so we'll see what Neil decides to bring in here, as well as what it was that Fiona decides to do with both her Garchomp and her Pelipper. So the Krookodile comes in and intimidates. That Intimidate is going to be really huge onto Garchomp, you know, the physical attacker, really slowing down its damage options. As we see, it tickles the Whimsicott, you know, a resisted hit, and leaves Krookodile with still about 60% of its HP remaining, as Fiona goes for the Hurricane into the Whimsicott slot, deciding that she wants to get it off the field so it can't continue to do silly supportive things. So now Neil once again has Krookodile and Buzzwole out on the field, and this Pelipper's down to 1 HP, so it's an easy range to be KO'd by either of these two Pokemon. And as we saw last game, Buzzwole is carrying Ice Punch, which is going to be able to deal a significant amount of damage to Garchomp, and it does, again, have the speed advantage due to this Tailwind that Neil set on the previous turn. So it'll be interesting to see how Fiona responds if she could maybe switch around to gain positioning a little bit to be able to deal with that Buzzwole. It would certainly be to her advantage to do so. Alternatively, if she decides, you know what, Pelipper has done its job, it's KO'd the Whimsicott, and it's set Rain, you know, maybe protect Garchomp and then bring in like a Golduck after letting Pelipper get KO'd. However, she doesn't protect with Garchomp, and Pelipper goes down to the crunch from Krookodile as Buzzwole goes for the Ice Punch into the Garchomp, and that is enough to pick up the KO. Rough Skin dealing a little bit of damage to Buzzwole in return, but certainly not enough to maybe be worth taking that KO, as Buzzwole does pick up an attack boost thanks to the Beast Boost ability. So now it's going to be at +1 attack in Tailwind, very threatening against whatever comes out from Fiona's side of the field here. And once again, we do see that Golduck, who does have the speed advantage again against Buzzwole, thanks to the Rain. However, Krookodile, as we saw last game, is faster than the Golduck in Tailwind. So we do know that Golduck could fire off its Hydro Vortex into either one of these slots. It's going to deal a massive amount of damage. And I think it's going to be forced to attack into Buzzwole as we see the Tectonic Rage coming out from the Krookodile. This could actually be going into Golduck. We'll see who Neil decided to target down with the Krookodile. And it is indeed the Muck, picking up the KO on Muck, deciding that that's going to be the harder Pokemon to KO with my other remaining Pokemon. I would rather get rid of it, as we do see Scald going into Krookodile, picking up the KO. As Buzzwole goes for the superpower at +1 attack, that's going to deal a lot of damage, and it does pick up the KO with a critical hit. Not sure that critical hit really mattered in the long run there. The attack of Buzzwole is already really high, and it was already boosted. So we do see Neil take this match in 2 games. Very well played on his side of the field. He really capitalized on the speed control that Whimsicott offered him, and that's definitely something that Fiona just wasn't able to overcome